Now on Good Morning Tucson, as we mark the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th attacks, I'm here at the Tucson Convention Center to tell you how our community is remembering and honoring the first responders from that day.
A little later, new emergency tools on U of A's campus could help more people save lives.
Our Jacqueline Aguilar will explain how a piece of plastic could help stop deadly overdoses.
And a historic debate in a historic election. I'm diving into what each candidate had to say and what people right here in southern Arizona are thinking as Good Morning Tucson at 6 starts right now.
My family and I, and as I'm sure everybody, we want answers, and we won't rest until we have them. All the answers. We want all of the answers to every question you can think about.
It's been nearly 2 months since the tragic plane crash above Washington, D.C. 67 people died when a passenger plane and military helicopter collided in midair. But for their loved ones, the search for answers continues. Thank you for being with us this morning. I'm Claire Graham. Dan has the morning off. One of the people killed in the crash that day was Dustin Miller, who lived here in Tucson for more than 20 years. This morning, KGUN 9's Maria Staubs is sitting down with his sister, who says what their family wants now is clarity.
Dustin Miller.
His new name is Pope Leo XIV, formerly known as Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost. He is now the first American pope in the history of the Catholic Church.
Few people thought an American would ever lead the church, but now the 69-year-old Chicago native becomes the 267th pope in charge of leading the world's nearly 1.5 billion Catholics. White smoke announced his election after just 2 days of the cardinals voting. Pope Leo took part in his first mass as pope earlier this morning.
Yeah, while he is making history for the 60 million Catholics in our country, he has been called kind of the least American of the American cardinals. That's because he's the 6 o'clock hour, nearly 100 days into the second Trump administration. Protesters across southern Arizona, they continue to group and make their voices heard as the president carries on with his cuts across the government.
And it's not just protesters. Politicians from our state and across the country are speaking up here in Tucson. Good morning, Tucson. It's Monday, April 14th. I'm Claire Graham.
I'm Dan Spindle. In his first 3 months in office, President Trump has put a number of federal agencies effectively in the crosshairs. Everything from national parks, the IRS, Department of Veterans Affairs, too.
Now, a major shakeup is underway at the VA with more than 80,000 layoffs coming. Scripps News Group just got new internal documents showing these cuts will happen in phases throughout the end of the year. Phase 1 is already underway with voluntary retirements.
Well, lately we've been talking a lot about the federal funding cuts from the Trump administration, things that they are pushing, and the impact that they could have right here in southern Arizona. This morning we've got several stories about how local organizations are trying to deal with those cuts. We want to start with the Tucson Village Farm in Midtown. Now, the nonprofit is preparing for more than 600 kids to attend their camps this summer. They're also preparing for those camps to shut down completely. They got to have
the Loft Cinema in Midtown is also trying to figure out what to do now that they're losing a $30,000 grant from the National Endowment for the Arts. We told you yesterday about how federal cuts to the NEA are hurting local groups here in Arizona. And we now know that includes the popular independent theater. The NEA
and FAA are investigating a deadly plane crash in Marana.
And we know 2 people were killed when 2 planes collided over the Marana Regional Airport. That's where we find Blake Phillips joining us live now.
Blake, what do we know about the crash this morning? We know you were there yesterday gathering information. What do we know today?
That's exactly right, guys.
Obviously, have arrived at Fort Huachuca in Cochise County. This is part of President Trump's efforts to strengthen border security.
About 500 troops from Fort Drum in New York will be serving in support roles along the border. They'll be joining about 1,600 active duty military personnel already deployed to the southern border earlier this year.
That brings the total number of troops at the border to around 4,000. Let's bring in Blake Phillips right now, who joins us live from Sierra Vista Municipal Airport.
Yeah, Blake, what are these troops expected to do?
Yeah, well, you guys just kind of mentioned it. They're kind of serving in a helpful role for customers.
Approaching 5:05, agencies across southern Arizona will now be using a brand new border operations center and working together to arrest more people trying to illegally cross Border Patrol's Tucson sector. KGUN 9's Blake Phillips is live at the Nogales Port of Entry. And Blake, some numbers show us that this new resource is actually coming at a critical time.
Yeah, good morning, Jose. Well, I'm here at the DeConcini Port of Entry this morning. You can see behind me traffic flowing pretty easily so far this morning. According to the CBP One app, it's about a 20-minute wait. I just checked that about 5 minutes before we went on air. But the fiscal year of 2024, those are the numbers that you were just talking about, have shown that the Border Patrol has apprehended over 460,000 migrants in the Tucson sector alone, by far the largest amount when you look at all the bordering communities and the sectors broken down online. That is a 25% increase from 2023. That number in 2023 more closer to about 320,000. And so in the month of October alone, here's another number for you. It has actually declined across the calendar year. As we've gotten into October, it's about 10,200 apprehensions. And so
44 school districts and educational agencies statewide.
Opioid overdoses among minors have gone down in the last couple of years. This, according to data from the Arizona Department of Health. In 24, there were 95 non-fatal overdoses among children up to age 17. That was just 2.4% of all overdoses last year, down from 133 the year before. So far this year, 12 minors have overdosed. Now, when it comes to deaths, 9 people in that age range died from overdoses last year. That is 0.6% of all overdose deaths, a decrease from 26 the year prior. So you think that's the right direction. There have been 9 deaths so far this year. So we're tracking this. Among all groups, 72% of cases involved fentanyl. Take a look at the graph here. It kind of breaks it down for us. The drug with the next highest percentage was meth at 35%, which can be a factor. Fentanyl has been the leading drug in causing overdoses in the state of Arizona, this since 2020.
5 before in our Border Watch, talking to NBC this weekend, President-elect Donald Trump doubled down on his plan to start mass deportations once he's in office. The plan puts southern Arizona even more so in the spotlight. Remember, last week, Tom Homan, Trump's handpicked border czar, came to Sierra Vista to talk to leaders like Sierra Vista Mayor Clea McCaw and Cochise County Sheriff Mark Daniels. Now, McCaw and Daniels say they want to work toward a solution that keeps their community safe. But other local leaders like Tucson Mayor Regina Romero called Trump's approach, quote, deeply troubling. Now, you hear Romero's argument there. Well, this morning, fresh off his re-election win, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos says he has no plans to either enforce or have his deputies join in the logistics of the White House's mass deportation operation. Nanos says he is waiting to see.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for waking up with all of us here at KGUN 9. I'm Dan Spindle. Claire is off today. This morning, 12 people have already put their names into the hat to replace the late Raul Grijalva, who passed away last week after a long battle with lung cancer. Now, they are vying to represent Congressional District 7. It is one of southern Arizona's 2 congressional districts. You see on the map, Arizona's largest district. It includes 5 counties, 4 tribal nations, and it runs along 350 miles or so of the southern border with Mexico. It is second only to a district in Texas for that size along the border. Now, Representative Grijalva represented the people here for his entire 22 years in Congress. More than 800,000 people, 442,000 registered voters. The majority in the district are Democrats, outnumbering Republicans nearly 2 to 1, 178,000 to 92,000. There are also, though, nearly as many independents at 164,000. One of the people running to replace Grijalva is Republican Daniel Gutierrez, who Grijalva beat in November.
I'm different than everybody else because I am from here and I'm not a politician. I'm just a working man, just like everyone else out there. I work for a living, I always have. I'm just tired of what's happening in our community, and I'm the guy that can fix it.
On the Democratic side, we do know one person who is not running, and that is Tucson Mayor Regina Romero. While she has not said anything yet, a political consultant we spoke with said Grijalva's daughter, Pima County Supervisor Adelita Grijalva, would do well in the special election that is coming up. Blake Phillips joining us now in studio to break down a whole lot. There's a lot to get to with this very blue district.
Yep.
Again, maybe some opportunity for Republicans, though, when you consider the large number of independents.
I mean, the most recent election, this one was the best that Republicans had performed, but it really didn't wind up being all that close.
Yeah,
like, those aren't
close.
the final numbers, but at the same time, it's a special election. And with special elections, they can get a little bit weird in the sense of you never know how they're going to turn out. That's really when when you see upsets happen is like, oh, it's a non-presidential term. There isn't a presidential race at the top of the ticket, or it's not a conventional midterm. Right. So you never know. Anyway, I sat down with the Pima County GOP, Kathleen Wynn. She's the new GOP chair. And she says, you know, the first step for them is paying respect to Raul Grijalva, somebody who gave their life to Southern Arizona, who dedicated the majority of their adult life to public service. But at the same time, this is a very fast-paced election process, and they're going to take this race seriously.
Look to see what do the people in CD7 want in terms of quality of life, in terms of safety, in terms of economy, jobs. This, again, is one of the poorest congressional districts. So what do we do to fix it for CD7? And I say it's time for new leadership.
And this is really going to be interesting to me, just how this all shakes down. Yeah. You'd mentioned 12 people had filed, 6 of those Republicans, 4 of those Democrats, 1 Libertarian, 1 from the Green Party. And that was just on day 1 of the filing process. So we don't know who's going to throw their name into the race. Adelita Grijalva, a lot of people are assuming. But
she's got the name recognition,
exactly,
certainly.
You know, but at the same time, she's mourning the loss of her dad. The whole family needs to go through that process. And that's what's weird with this, is how fast it's going.
Right. Yeah. So he will get his proper honor at that service next week, and then it feels like in earnest the process will really pick up and start going. That service, you see the information there on your screen. That mass memorial service for Congressman Grijalva will be held next Wednesday, the 26th. At 10 o'clock in the morning. That'll be at St. Augustine Cathedral. Community gathering will take place after the funeral at El Casino Ballroom. So Blake, thank you for that, kind of breaking that down for us. And back open this morning after the eastbound lanes had to be closed near Congress overnight. This due to a crash. This was the view from ADOT's traffic cam. This was just after midnight, folks. You can see traffic being diverted off the highway. Just how long the backup stretched there. The Arizona Department of Public Safety tells us there was a collision with unknown injuries. We are working to learn more about those details, and we'll pass them along to you when we do. Live view from the same traffic camera this morning. You can see traffic running smoothly. Nothing going on right now in the 5 o'clock hour. Bree Pacelli holding down the fort at the traffic center. Let's find out, as folks get ready to head out the door, what they're going to be facing today, Bree.
Yeah, I mean, so far a really nice...
Good morning, Tucson. It is Wednesday, February 12th. I'm Claire Graham.
I'm Dan Spindle. Glad to welcome you in. Ballots for the City of Tucson's Prop 414 special election are going to be mailed out beginning today. Voters will decide on a new half-cent sales tax we've been talking about. It's supposed to raise about $800 million over the next decade.
It's a lot of money, and it will go to pay for a long list of programs across Tucson. It will get divided into 5 main categories, including buying better equipment for police and firefighters and helping low-income families afford a place to live. The city says the funding will be making up for losses, too, since they've been getting less money from the state because of changes to state income taxes.
Well, opponents ranging from state lawmakers to business leaders say another half-cent sales tax increase will make the total sales tax 9.2% in Tucson, high enough to be too big a burden for low-income people.
A lot of these things, making sure that we replenish the supplies for our police officers and for our firefighters, having new trucks, having new vehicles. These are all critical and important things. Yet the way that we're funding them by increasing the sales tax in the city of Tucson is the wrong move.
Opponents say the city can pay for the things that they want without boosting the sales tax.
Now, some city leaders, like City Council member Paul Cunningham, says Tucson does need this boost to keep paying employees and provide the services that people want.
But if your priorities are our employees, and your priorities are having a modern city with the proper technology, and your priorities are having housing and addressing the issues of the unhoused, then that's why I said yes.
Election day is March 11th, but it's all mail-in ballots. If you're registered to vote, you should get your ballot by next week.
The city holding town halls across Tucson for voters to learn more about Prop 414 ahead of the election. There is one tonight. That is at the Donna R. Liggins Recreation Center in Midtown. It runs from 5:30 to 7. So there's your heads up.
And if you want to read more about this sales tax and see how people in our community feel about it, you can use our 9 News Navigator. We have all of our stories pinned to where they're happening around town. It's all right there on kgun9.com and on the KGUN 9 app.
Tucsonans are back to voting today, not to elect a candidate, but to decide on Proposition 414. The outcome could impact city services and it could impact your wallet.
And KGUN 9's Bree Pacelli joins us live at Udall Park now, one of the places where you can drop off a ballot today. Bree, what should people know for today's election?
Yeah, that is right. Today is election day for Prop 414, and it is the only thing on the ballot, which you should already know because there are no polls open for this election. It was an all-mail election, and today it is drop-off only. If approved, the city portion of the sales tax collected on a purchase would go from 2.6% to 3.1%, generating about $80 million a year. That money will go towards projects like affordable housing, police and fire equipment, and workforce development. Supporters like Tucson's mayor and first responder unions say the tax is needed to offset a drop in state funding, but others argue it puts too much of the burden on taxpayers. The city says if approved, the change would be small.
So if approved, people would see a small increase at the register when they pay sales tax. Of course, sales tax in the city of Tucson does not apply to food or rent, but if a person spends, for example, $2, they would see an extra penny added to the sales tax.
So there are several drop-off locations that you can go to throughout the day if you didn't mail in your ballot already. So you can come to 8 different locations across the city to drop off your ballot. They open at 6 a.m. and will close at 7 p.m. tonight. Guys?
Bree, thank you. Yeah, a different kind of election that we see all the time, so kind of a good thing to pay attention to. But like Bree said, it is too late to mail in your ballot, but there are several places where you can drop them off. Let's run through them. There's one location in each of the city's 6 wards. You can see all of the addresses on your screen right now. And like Bree said, they're open from 6 this morning until 7 tonight. All of these places can also give you a replacement ballot if you have lost yours, along with this Tucson City Clerk's Election Center. And then you can also drop off your ballot at the Pima County Recorder's Office or the Pima County Elections Department. And again, we have this full list on our website, kgod9.com.
Well, Bree mentioned it, but where exactly would the money from Prop 414 go? If it's approved, the new half-cent sales tax would raise a projected $800 million. This would be over a decade to help the city of Tucson. Now, where would it go? Let's look at the 5 categories here on this pie chart, including things like affordable housing. Now, nearly 2/3 of the new funding would go toward public safety investments, like a new combined Tucson police and fire station on the southeast side, and new equipment for both departments. Tucson Police Chief Chad Kazmar says that funding would be vital for his department since they spend most of their budget on personnel. He says it would let the police hire more officers and add new technology.
Prop 414 does have its critics, including some people who are specifically against this new police funding, and you can see what they have to say and all of our previous coverage on our website. It's on our 9 News Navigator. You can find it all right there. We have all of our stories pinned right to where they're happening on kgod9.com and the KGOD 9 app.
Here at 6:30, we're following breaking news and an update now on a deadly shooting at the U of A campus.
University police say they are still looking for the gunman this morning. KGOD 9's Bree Pacelli joins us live on campus. Bree, what are the updates this morning?
Claire Jose, we actually just received new updates from UAPD just a couple of minutes ago. A Pima Community College student was shot here at the Arizona Sonora Hall, which is on Park Avenue and 4th Street. Now, the student did get into an altercation around 11 p.m. last night here at the volleyball courts where he was shot, and then people did carry him to a nearby parking lot where he ultimately died after UAPD attempted life-saving measures on him. Now, as far as the gunman goes, we know that he is a heavy-set male with curly hair, and he was last seen wearing a white shirt and gray shorts with a handgun. If you see him, or if you know who he is, or if you see anything suspicious, be sure to call 911. Now, shortly after the shooting, the university did send an alert out to students telling them to avoid the area, but since then they have said it's all clear, but UAPD is still looking for the suspect. Now, if you have any information on this, be sure to call 911, and this is a developing story, so we'll continue to keep you updated with any more information both on air and online at kgod9.com.
All right, thanks again to Bree Pacelli live on campus providing us those latest updates. Thank you, Bree. Right now, we are waiting for Vice President Kamala Harris to arrive in Douglas. It'll be her first visit to the southern border since becoming the Democratic Party's nominee for president.
And Blake Phillips joins us live from Douglas near the border this morning. Blake, polls show Harris is behind when it comes to immigration and in Arizona. What are you expecting today?
Well, like you just said, immigration has been a big issue for the Harris campaign and for the Biden campaign before that. So this visit is a very big deal. Looking at polls, recent polls, you've seen the former President Trump pull ahead here in Arizona in general. Of course, he's maintained a pretty significant lead when it comes to immigration since well before President Biden dropped out of the race. But let's circle back to that last visit that we talked about at the top of the show. It was in El Paso, Texas back in 2021, about 6 months after the Biden administration came into office. And a lot of the questions became after that, will the vice president make a border stop as she's taken on the role of this campaign and the responsibility of this campaign? Of course, former President Trump using a lot of aggressive terms when it comes to immigration, addressing President Biden, and now Vice President Harris labeling her the border czar throughout a lot of his campaign ads and such. But now we know the answer. Yes, she will be here today. And I spoke with District 3 Supervisor in Pima County, Dr. Sylvia Lee. She'll be down here today, and she says she's very excited for this visit.
First of all, I want to tell her how much we support her, and we need her to continue to be courageous and strong, secure the border, prosecute those that are coming across illegally, especially those that are smuggling humans and drugs.
Now, we don't know a lot about what her itinerary is here today in Tucson and down here in Douglas. And what we do know is that she'll be landing at the airport around 1 o'clock before heading down to Douglas. We have been told that the remarks will be given in a private setting at the Cochise College's Douglas campus here down in Douglas. And that'll be later this afternoon. Again, the time for that has not been set in stone yet. But let's take another step back here. Arizona is a very, very busy state when it comes to the battleground. We've seen former President Trump here twice in the last 2 months. We've seen Senator J.D. Vance here at the beginning of August, and again, second gentleman Doug Emhoff. Now Vice President Kamala Harris. So Claire, Jose, very busy, very active. Surely not going to be the last stop, just about under 40 days from the election.
Pretty wild. Blake, thank you. And we will be checking back in with you throughout the morning. Right now, though, we want to bring in April Madison.
Yeah, April, we know, as Blake mentioned, this event in particular for the vice president, it's going to be private, but we can expect maybe supporters, crowds might still want to stick around, catch a glimpse of her in the motorcade or as she's arriving to the college. So what's the weather going to be like out there?
It's going to be hot. Thankfully, it's going to be a little bit better than where we are, and if she's landing in.
This morning, southern Arizona and people across the country are mourning the death of the late Congressman Raul Grijalva, who served our community for more than 5 decades in Tucson, Pima County, and Washington, D.C. Grijalva's office says he died yesterday from complications with his cancer treatment. Thank you for being with us. I'm Claire Graham. Dan has the morning off. Raul Grijalva was diagnosed with lung cancer back in April of last year. Now let's bring in Blake Phillips in the studio this morning. Blake, you've covered the congressman for the last couple years. What can you tell us about him and where we go from here?
I mean, it's really kind of tough to talk about. I had the chance to meet him really early in my start here at KGUN 9. He is, like you just said, a lifelong public servant. He cared so much about Tucson because he was born and raised here, and he really has a legacy that is second to none. He served 11 full terms in Congress, and that was after over a decade on the school board at TUSD, 15 years on the Board of Supervisors in Pima County, and he focused his work in Congress on the environment and indigenous rights, having chaired the House Committee on Natural Resources for the last few years. It's an over 5-decade legacy that just can't be replaced.
He's somebody that can't possibly be replaced from a personal level. He can't possibly be replaced in Congress in any meaningful way, but the needs of Arizonans, persist, and I'm sure that Raul would want us to get right back to work as soon as we can, doing the work we can for the people of Arizona.
And while the grieving continues, the political climate right now means who is going to fill the seat is in the back of everyone's mind. State law dictates that since there is not a general election within the next 6 months, a special election is going to be called for. Primaries for the election are set to take place about 4 months from now, with a special general election happening about 2 months after that. But like I said, I had the chance to meet the congressman several times. Again, honestly, in like the first 2 months of me working at KGUN 9, he was kind and he was generous and he was patient, and that meant so much to me. And one thing was for sure that I learned very quickly: he loved Arizona. So no matter where you stand on the political aisle, our community lost a pillar and a tremendous advocate for Tucson.
All right, Blake, thank you. Yeah, his loss will certainly be felt here. Now, this morning, we are seeing condolences and reactions pour in from politicians and local leaders. Southern Arizona's other congressman, District 6 Representative Juan Ciscomani, had this to say about his late colleague.
We were very unique, very different, yet I think what we did share was a common interest and value in having conversations with people that you don't agree with.
In a statement, former President Joe Biden said Grijalva will be remembered for tirelessly standing up for working families and protecting our environment. Tucson Mayor Regina Romero said Grijalva's lifetime of service to Tucson, Southern Arizona, and our nation will never be forgotten. She went on to say he led with his principles and courage, and she asked our community to honor his memory and service. Pima County Supervisor Adelita Grijalva, the late congressman's daughter, called him a, quote, towering public figure who left an indelible mark in southern Arizona. She said he set lofty standards with his wisdom, integrity, and passion for the common person, and she thanked him for being her dad. Raul Grijalva was 77 years old.
Another border visit now on Good Morning Tucson. I'm live here in Sierra Vista, getting you ready for everything you need to know about former President Trump's visit to Cochise County.
Plus, Jacqueline Aguilar is taking us downtown, where one shelter is helping women keep their circumstances from defining them. And on the west side, Reina Preciado is introducing us to a group of nurses hoping to use their passion for saving children to help more families. Good Morning Tucson at 6 starts right now.
Connecting communities through your stories that inspire us. It's Good Morning Tucson.
It's hard to believe until you see it with your own eyes just how bad the policies of the Kamala Harris administration have been when it comes to the southern border.
All eyes are on Cochise County as former president and Republican nominee Donald Trump makes his way to the border this morning. Trump making his visit just weeks after his running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, who you heard there, made his own stop at the border. Our Blake Phillips joins us live now from Cochise County. Blake, what are you expecting from Trump's visit today?
Yeah, Ryan, President Trump making a visit of his own to the southern border just 3 weeks to the day after Senator Vance made that stop that you just mentioned. Now, he's also making another stop here in Arizona tomorrow, as he's been running counter-programming throughout the week to the DNC. But today's visit is going to be very similar to what we saw last week. We're expecting President Trump to land here around 10 a.m. and by 11:30 he will be at the border. But I did speak with the Trump campaign. They said they're expecting a couple hundred people here to greet the president for some remarks before he heads to the border. But an actual press conference will be happening later this afternoon. Around noon is when we expect that to happen. But I want to take you to some video from his rally yesterday in North Carolina. You'll notice it's outdoors. It's his first outdoor rally since the assassination attempt on his life in July. And you'll also notice in some of the video here some bulletproof glass. That glass usually reserved for sitting presidents, but it had been rumored the Secret Service asked President Trump to stop holding outdoor events, and it looks like, based on yesterday and today, that's not going to happen. He's going to continue holding those events, considering today's is also outdoors, but that bulletproof glass will be brought along with it. Now, I want to show you a statement from Trump yesterday, kind of just highlighting the talking points he's been using when it comes to Vice President Harris.
And she'll be worse than Biden because he wasn't really a believer, but she's a radical left believer. She ruined San Francisco. She ruined California. And if she gets in, our country doesn't have a chance.
Now, here's some video from Vance's visit at the beginning of August. You'll see the part of the border wall that he's visiting today is where it ends heading into the Huachuca Mountains here in Cochise County. President Trump made several visits to the border during his terms as president, but this is his first time making a trip to Cochise County, so he'll take a look at what Senator Vance saw at the beginning of the month. Now, he does have those stops planned that I mentioned in Glendale tomorrow, as well as an event in Nevada. But another talking point that we're following today, independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also set to have a rally in Phoenix tomorrow. Ryan.
And that is something we'll be watching, Blake. We know RFK's rally could have big implications for the Trump campaign. RFK's campaign says that he'll be, quote, addressing the nation at tomorrow's rally. But sources tell ABC News that he's planning to end his campaign and endorse Trump. Yesterday, Kennedy's running mate, Nicole Shanahan, said the campaign is considering endorsing Trump to prevent the, quote, risk of a Harris victory. Trump has expressed openness to Kennedy joining a future administration if he endorses him, and J.D. Vance said he would welcome that endorsement. Meanwhile, Trump and Vance's visits to the border within a month of each other shows immigration still a key talking point in this election. But new data shows migrant arrests along the southern border are dropping. Data from U.S. Customs and Border Protection shows arrests at southwest ports of entry and the southwest border overall in July fell to 56,000. That's a 32% drop from the prior month, the lowest monthly number since September 2020. Acting CBP Commissioner Troy Miller is giving credit to President Biden's recent executive action to allow Border Patrol agents to turn away more asylum seekers. Tucson's Border Patrol sector still leading all sectors in the number of migrant arrests, but Those numbers have also been trending down since the executive order, and new reports show arrests are staying below 3,000 last week, well below last year's numbers. There could have been even more action taken on the border this year. Democrats tried to pass a bipartisan immigration bill that would have put many of the same restrictions on asylum seekers in place, but that was blocked by Republicans. Now, with the election on the horizon, Democrats like Arizona Senator Mark Kelly are using that failed bill to go after Trump.
This is the most hypocritical thing I've ever seen in politics. A guy who talks about this issue all the time, when we finally had a chance to address it through strong legislation, he told Republicans in the Senate that they were not allowed to vote for it. So they didn't walk away from this bill, they ran away from it.
Harris has also used the failed bill to attack her Republican opponent and has endorsed comprehensive immigration reform in her campaign. Republicans say that failed bill was a political stunt from Democrats. Senator Kelly is just one of many Arizona lawmakers and delegates in Chicago this week for the Democratic National Convention. Nearly a dozen of those delegates are calling on the Biden administration to impose an arms embargo on Israel until a permanent ceasefire is reached in the war in Gaza. More than 325 Arizona Democrats have signed on. The letter is being circulated here in Arizona and at the convention. Ceasefire negotiations are underway in the Middle East this week. The Biden administration proposed a deal months ago, but neither side has agreed to it. Protests of the war in Gaza also taking place outside the convention in Chicago. Thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters marched blocks away from the United Center for the third day in a row yesterday. Many say they're angry with Democrats' response to the war in Gaza, and they're seeking an end to it. Over 50 people from a smaller, unaffiliated group were arrested yesterday after clashing with police outside the Israeli consulate. Chicago is home to the largest Palestinian American population in the country. Right now, you're taking a live look inside the United Center in the Windy City. Coming up in the next half hour, we break down night 3 of the DNC, capped by Minnesota Governor Tim Walz officially accepting his party's nomination for vice president. And around 6:40 this morning, our Joe St. George will join us live to break down what to expect from Kamala Harris's speech tonight.
We're starting with breaking news here on Good Morning Tucson. Thousands in Tucson still don't have power this morning after storms tore through parts of the city on Sunday.
And TEP says they are working to restore the outages, but for some families, there's still no timeline for when that could happen. Here's the TEP outage map. You can see all the red dots and squares show the outages. They really cover a huge stretch of the city, the north side down to the south side, and plenty of people in the dark through Midtown and downtown.
Okay, Good 9's Bree Pacelli joins us live from the north side this morning. Bree, and again, this is one part of town we know got hit hard by those storms. What's the damage you're seeing outside right now?
Yeah, Claire Jose, right now I'm outside of AutoZone at Prince and Fairview, and I'll take a step aside so you can see what this building is looking like. As you can see, the whole side of this building was blown off from the storms last night. These shelves are just open to the public, and security has been here all night long to make sure that no one steals anything, and they're actually still here with us right now. But this site became a local attraction for people who live nearby.
I've never seen anything like that in Tucson. I've been here 31 years.
Besides the winds, there was also intense flooding and high winds yesterday near downtown on Speedway. Several cars were stuck in an underpass by I-10. Drivers did try to get through the flooded part of the road, but if you're ever in the situation, you should never drive through floodwaters. Downtown saw quarter-inch hail and uprooted trees, leading to several road closures for cleanup. Heavy rain caused flooding and downed trees citywide. The Tucson Fire Department tells us they performed five swift water rescues in 30 minutes with no injuries reported. Now, along with the severe thunderstorms and flash flood warnings, there was also 2 tornado warnings issued, but there were no confirmed tornadoes. Now, there was a lot of wind damage starting in central Phoenix all the way to Marana, and the TFD actually says they received over 50 calls of downed power lines, and TEP is still working to get power back to thousands of customers this morning, but we'll continue to keep you updated both on air and online at KGUN9.com, but I'll send it back to you guys for now.
All right, thanks to Bree Petrelli. Now we're going to bring in our meteorologist, April Madison.
Yeah, April, these are major storms. Hopefully we're in the clear today.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty worked over, so it's going to take a little bit longer to clear through that and burn through that to develop more storms. But that moisture is in place. Now we just need the lift and the instability, but we're already clearing quite a bit. So any storms that do develop, once again, will bring on that type of wind. As Bree mentioned, we had two tornado warnings yesterday, one over the Mount Lemmon area, the other one in Marana. Could we see that again today? Possibly, but it may take an extra day to really get a lot of that clearing and instability back. And we won't really have any official confirmation until we see more of the damage later today, because a lot of that was kind of embedded into heavy rain. So it was very, very hard to see. You can see the center of circulation, the way this moisture is wrapping around. So it's these areas to our southeast that will likely see it first. But we've got some decent rain cooled air this morning, expected to stay in the upper 70s for us and right about 70 for you in Sierra Vista. Tucson will see about a 30% chance for maybe some isolated storms. Certainly much stronger chances for you in Sierra Vista as you are closer to where that storm is going to develop. So low 90s for you and low 100s for us. But it was quite the day. We not only had some pretty decent rain totals in some places, but also some pretty decent wind gusts, some impressive wind gusts. And I'll have some details coming up, especially in your Super 7 Day.
That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened.
We have a major developing story, and we're learning more about the timeline before and after gunmen tried to assassinate former President Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania over the weekend. What you're watching there are the immediate moments, the gunfire, and after. Trump grabbed his ear and ducked as Secret Service agents rushed him on top of him to get him off the stage.
Now, the soon-to-be Republican nominee says a bullet hit the upper part of his ear. He told the New York Post he's supposed to be dead. Now, this morning, though, he has already arrived in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention. At his rally this weekend, Trump was speaking in a small, mostly Republican town when someone in the crowd shouted, "He's got a gun," and then the shooting started. The FBI says the gunman had been on a roof of a building outside the rally about 400 feet from the president. He fired 8 shots from an AR-15 before the Secret Service shot and killed him.
Another man at the rally, 50-year-old Corey Comparatore, was also killed in the shooting. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro said Comparatore was a volunteer firefighter. He was shot as he was diving onto his family to protect them. 2 more people were hurt in the rally shooting, but we know now that both of them are in the hospital and recovering.
This morning, the FBI is investigating how that gunman was able to get so close to the president without anyone noticing. They say he was a 20-year-old man from another small town in Pennsylvania. While the FBI says he was a registered Republican, they say he had donated to a Democratic group the day President Biden took office, but they're still trying to figure out his motive for the shooting. Federal agents have been searching his home and car along with the bomb squad who found materials to make a bomb. Police say early evidence points to the shooter acting alone, although they say his father legally bought the gun he used. Investigators say when the young man was in high school, he had wanted to join the rifle club, but he got rejected because he was, quote unquote, a bad shot. Former classmates say he usually sat alone and was bullied in school. Now, shortly after the shooting, President Trump started posting online saying he was okay. In his initial post on Truth Social, he thanked the Secret Service and local law enforcement for acting so quickly in the aftermath. In posts since then, he's talked about praying for the recovery of the people wounded and remembering the man at the rally who was killed. Yesterday, he also posted that he wasn't going to let a potential assassin change his schedule, so he would still be going to the Republican National Convention as planned.
And on the day after the assassination attempt on Trump, President Biden is now calling on Americans to lower the temperature on their political disagreements. Sunday, Biden made a rare Oval Office address on camera, asking people to choose unity and calm in the wake of the chaos.
A former president was shot, an American citizen killed, while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We cannot, we must not go down this road in America. It's time to cool it down.
There's some video there where he later in a different press conference, President Biden said that he called Trump after the shooting. The president says he also wants investigators to do an independent review on the security measures used at the rally.
This morning, the reactions are strong from local political parties in Tucson who are echoing the feeling that political violence isn't okay. Blake Phillips is here with us now in the studio with a look at what they have to say. Blake?
Yeah, local party leaders here in Tucson are all talking about the rhetoric that's been used in the lead up to the shooting. Pima County GOP Director Dave Smith says Republicans here are all sick about the shooting.
What I would hope is that this would help tamper down some of the hot rhetoric that's been going on as a nation, and let's start talking about ideas and argue and have our conflict in a more social manner.
It scares me. It scares me that, something might happen to any one of us just for, being politically active.
Now, we also talked to local voters who say that the attempt on Trump's life may be a boon for him in the election.
It's created notoriety around Trump, and these people may have, helped Trump win the election by giving him all this spotlight by trying to kill him.
Now, the latest ABC News voting poll shows Trump has a 1-point lead over Biden among people asked. And for registered voters in this poll, it's a tie at 46% each, guys.
All right, Blake, thank you. And coming up later this hour, throughout the morning and this week, we will have continuing coverage of the assassination attempt, including the responses too from our local politicians.
We're also going to get some insight from a survivor of another shooting with political ties here in Tucson. That's coming up in about 10 minutes. And still ahead for you, we have an update from fire crews in Pinal County as they try to stop the massive Freeman fire.
Plus, there are new developments in the case of a little girl from Marana who died in a hot car. The charges her father is facing and where he is this morning.
As we approach 5:09, here is a view of our sky cam from Mount Bigelow, and it's a bit of a cloudy, hazy start to our week. April will be back with more of your forecast right here on Good Morning Tucson. There are still some votes left to count as we scan the latest numbers from Election Day.
Coming up on Good Morning Tucson, we're checking in on the candidates taking the lead in the primary.
I'm breaking down the candidates' reactions to last night's results and for the projected winners, how they're preparing for races in November.
And I'm live here in Bisbee with the latest from the Cochise County primaries. And in just a little bit, we'll be talking to the front runner of the Bisbee mayoral election. Good Morning Tucson at 6 starts right now.
As America votes, things are quiet at the Pima County Elections Office at the moment. This is the live view inside their ballot counting room, where in just a few hours, workers will be back for another busy day of counting votes. Good morning, Tucson. It's Wednesday, July 31st. I'm Claire Graham.
And I'm Jose Sosa. Now, we know more ballots will be coming in today at several parts of the day. We're also looking, though, at the projected winners in key races, all part of our team coverage for you this morning.
In a few minutes, we'll check in with Blake Phillips in Bisbee and with Bree Pacelli here in a moment.
Right now, let's get you into those numbers in the Republican primary for senator. That is a top profile race. The Associated Press calling Kari Lake the winner, meaning that she would be the one to move on to the general election in November.
Now, Lake took an early lead when the results started coming in. This morning you can see she currently has 55% of the vote. If you look too at the counties, she in Pima County,
I'll have to click out for there for you.
There we go. In Pima County, she had 59% of the vote as well, leading by almost 20,000 votes over her opponent, Mark Lamb. Now let's bring in Bree Pacelli joining us in the studio.
And Bree, we'll get started with how Kari Lake says she's processing last night's results.
Yeah, in Phoenix, it was a night of celebration for Kari Lake. The one-time candidate for governor is now preparing for November's matchup with Ruben Gallego. In her victory speech, she thanked voters and former President Donald Trump, who endorsed her in this primary. While she continued to go after Gallego and the media, she called for unity among Republicans.
I think we all share one common hero, and I think I'm safe to say that we think of our favorite president, Donald J. Trump, as a hero.
Lake also thanked her primary opponent, Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb, calling him a friend. On the other side of the aisle, Ruben Gallego, running in an uncontested Democratic primary, says he plans to focus on Lake's policies going into the general election this fall.
We also are running against a candidate who has one of the most extreme positions when it comes to abortion rights, something that is very important for rural Arizona. And, we're going to remind people that this is a candidate that said that she really liked the 1864 territorial ban, which would have destroyed choice for women, especially, again, in rural areas.
Gallego says he'll continue to travel the state in the run-up for November, reaching out to border counties and veterans. But for now, I'll send it back to you guys.
Bree, thank you. Now, Lake's big opponent in the primary, Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb, says even though he lost, he is proud of his campaign.
So I want to show you real again his percentage as of the last count, 39%, winning 2 of the counties, but you see where Lake kind of had her majorities. Pinal County, 62%, makes sense for him being the county sheriff. They're having support, and just next door in Graham County, 53%. Now, talking to a crowd of supporters back in Pinal County, Lamb said he was proud to have only raised money inside Arizona and for focusing on issues he says he knows are important to his community.
And you don't need all the money from all over the country. You don't need the DC money. You don't need all the things. What you need is purpose and conviction.
Now, while more ballots are still coming in, Lake's lead is strong enough right now over Lamb that the race has already been called.
All right, now we'll look at our congressional races that are also high profile. And this one for District 6, Representative Juan Ciscomani looks to have clinched the Republican nomination.
Yeah, he faced off against Kathleen Wynne and is currently leading with 59% of the vote. Again, a 16,000 vote margin between the two.
All right, we're showing you video of Ciscomani, the incumbent, at his campaign party celebrating last night. He says he is now getting ready for the general election in November.
I feel great. It's we won. Yeah, we won the election. The crowd here is fired up. We work hard, and a lot of the people here work very hard to help us win. So we're fired up for November as well. It's a good victory today, but we have to move on and seal this up in about 100 days.
Ciscomani's opponent in the primary, Kathleen Wynne, is accepting the loss. When results started coming in, she thanked her supporters and said she hopes to continue serving Southern Arizona.
I really am humbled and honored to have been able to run for this seat. I think that we need people to step forward, especially when people complain about how things are.
Ciscomani is now set for a rematch with Democrat Kirsten Engel, who lost to Ciscomani for this seat in Congress just 2 years ago.
Now, the other congressional race in Tucson, District 7, is much less interesting than District 6.
Yeah, incumbent Democrat Raul Grijalva, Republican Daniel Gutierrez Sr., both running uncontested, so they are both moving on to the general election. We're going to stay looking at Pima County, and this time checking on the primaries for county sheriff.
Yeah, the incumbent Democrat Sheriff Chris Nanos right now has a big lead this morning, 61%. His primary opponent, Sandy Rosenthal, has just 39% of the vote.
We'll switch over to the latest numbers in the Republican primary for sheriff. Here, it's a much closer race. At the last tally, it shows Heather Lappin with a slight lead, 45% over Bill Phillips, not too far behind at 40%. The margin of difference about less than 3,000 in that race.
In the race for Pima County Attorney, there aren't any Republicans running. Incumbent prosecutor Laura Conover has a significant lead over her challenger in the Democratic primary, Mike Jetty, 67 to 33% this morning.
So you can see by that margin, it shows us Laura Conover is the projected winner in this race, and her supporters turned their meeting Tuesday night into a victory party. Conover says she was campaigning this time around on eliminating the cash bail bond system and giving people convicted of nonviolent crimes a chance to get mental health or substance abuse treatment. At her party, she said last night this was a win for progressive policies.
We're bringing them even in Arizona, and that's huge for the nationwide movement that's really demonstrating across the country that public health is public safety and public safety is public health.
On the other side of town, Conover's opponent, Mike Jetty, held a small event where he talked about his 17 years of experience as a prosecutor and a hard-fought campaign. Despite the loss, he's crediting his team with making it this far.
Heartfelt appreciation for my team. We ran a great campaign, and I wish Laura Conover the best of luck in her next 4 years. So, I mean, my issue here is this is democracy. People make a vote, and we move on.
Jetty says he's more disappointed for his team since they didn't get the outcome they wanted, but he says he's still figuring out what's coming next.
Right now, we're going to head to Cochise County and check in on that race for mayor in Bisbee.
Now, there are 3 candidates vying for this spot, including the incumbent mayor, Ken Budge. This morning, he is significantly ahead of his challengers, Gretchen Bonaducci and Wanda Lycum. Budge is leading the race right now with 70% of the vote. And let's bring in Blake Phillips live for us in Bisbee.
Now, Blake, we know you talked to all 3 candidates earlier this summer about why they wanted to get into this race. What are you hearing about these votes as they've been coming in through the morning?
Yeah, guys, good morning. I spoke with Budge, who made sure to let us know that he was in the lead and he's very excited to potentially take his third term. We're hoping to speak with him live here in just a little bit during the second half of this show. But again, he's in the lead right now. Bonaduce and Lycum secured just about 15% of the vote, like you just mentioned. But there are other Cochise County races here, including District 1, 2, and 3 for the Board of Supervisors. Let's start with District 1 here. Terry Crosby in first place right now. A very tight race there. 53% of that vote for him, 47% for the runner-up there, Clint Braceno. Again, these numbers are not final. They'll be final at a later time. Let's head to District 2, though. There we find Joni Giacomino up 62%. That's the race a little bit further spread out. 38% for the second place person there. District 3, excuse me, Frank Antinori. This race is a little bit tighter, but Frank Antinori in first place, 36% there. Second place and third place, 25%, 21%. These numbers are not final, like I mentioned. We could get more votes as we go through the day. Right now, those are the leaders, though. And like I said, coming up in just a short bit, we're hoping to speak with Mayor Budge and talk about, hopefully, his future plans for Bisbee, guys.
All right, Blake, thank you. And again, we are expecting more rounds of ballots to come in, and we will keep following the results of this primary.
By the way, the election results will be certified in mid-August, and leading up to then, you can always check in on our continuing coverage. We'll have those updates here, of course, on Good Morning Tucson and online on KGUN9.com.
And now, KGUN 9 First Warning Weather.
6:08 this morning, and we say good morning to our April Madison.
April, it's quiet now, but here it comes.
Yeah, we like to call this the calm before the storm, and fingers crossed that actually happens. But we are expecting it to be a more active day. It's definitely shaping up that way, especially southeast of us right now. A lot of sunshine, clear skies to start the day, so hard to believe what may be coming, and maybe this time a little earlier than what we typically see, which is usually late afternoon or even evening time frame for the Tucson area. But we could start seeing storms developing even as early as noon, and as much as a 50% between that 2 and 5 o'clock time frame, which should keep temperatures down just a bit. We still topped out at 101 yesterday, so it would only be a degree or two cooler, but it'll all depend on the timing of the rain, which would drop us down quite a bit if and when it does happen. A solid chance not only for us, but areas southeast of us, like Cochise County, will likely see it first. So morning hours could start seeing even a 20 to 30% in the next couple of hours. So it is shaping up again to be a little bit more active. That's going to bring on some blowing dust concerns as well. We do have an advisory with some pretty strong wind gusts on tap. We'll talk about this in your complete forecast.
All right, thank you, April. We'll keep that umbrella very close by.
Yeah, really.
All right, still ahead, candidates making their case for the White House are stopping here in Arizona.
When Ohio Senator J.D. Vance is heading to the border, and when we can expect a visit from Vice President Kamala Harris coming up.
Now, a little later, Sierra Vista families are sending kids back to school today. We're also checking in with teachers in Tucson, getting a little boost to make sure their classrooms are ready and stocked.
And here at 6:10, here's the view of the sunrise this morning from our sky cam at El Conquistador in Oro Valley. April's coming back with your full forecast, so stick around. You're watching Good Morning Tucson.
This community is very indebted to him.
I think what I remember the most is that he's just really a genuine, humble person.
This is not the end of his journey, but only the beginning of his journey.
His unflinching commitment to justice would be the thing that I will personally take as an inspiration for the rest of my life.
We were very unique, very different, yet I think what we did share was a common interest and value in having conversations with people that you don't agree with.
And he inspired so many of us to embrace the fire within us.
He was a champion for all of us, and we're all feeling a great loss.
In the course of my career, I've gotten my hands dirty working on the problems of this community.
This morning, Tucson, southern Arizona, and the nation as a whole mourns the loss of Congressman Raul Grijalva, the man who served our community, served southern Arizona, and represented so many, giving so many a voice over the course of decades. Not just 20 years in the halls of Congress, but in various capacities, again, back when he was in his 20s. He began that journey. I'm Dan Spindle out here live outside St. Augustine Cathedral. Later on this morning at 10 o'clock, there will be a funeral mass, but that is just the beginning of what is a celebration of his life. We have team coverage here on GMT. We're going to be talking about traffic issues, road closures with Bree Pacelli of getting in and around downtown Tucson. If you plan on coming down here, Blake Phillips is talking about that celebration of life just down the road here, a few blocks away at El Casino Ballroom. And Claire Graham is back in the studio at KGUN 9. Let's get into it. We love sharing his life and legacy, talking about what the congressman meant to so many people. You heard many voices from different sides of the political aisle and from all walks of life on what he meant. Raul Grijalva, again, getting an early start in life to public service, 5 decades plus representing the people here of Southern Arizona. Now, let's talk about the logistics of the service itself. We're going to have dignitaries here from the national level. Former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi will be here. Governor Hobbs will be here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will be here, among many, many others. And we mean representatives of the tribal nations. There were a handful represented within Congressional District 7 itself, Tohono O'odham, Pascua Yaqui, and others. They will be here. His family and friends will be here. Again, this is a public event. It is open to the public. However, a space will be limited when you consider so many people who will be here. And again, kind of the iffy way of getting around when you consider sitting congressional delegations. Let's talk about what the congressman did in his life. Born near Amado, south of Green Valley, to a migrant worker family. That was those humble roots that you heard mentioned there that Raul Grijalva always held close, and he always felt he wanted to represent the people, the working people here of Southern Arizona. In his 20s, 26 years old, gets on the Tucson School Board and then moves his way to the county level, County Board of Supervisors. But get this, folks, he had a school named after him in the 80s, nearly 40 years ago. So this is someone whose legacy, again, he really needs no introduction when you think about it. But I want to tell you on the national level what he means to progressive politicians moving forward into the future. Here's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, what the representative from New York said about him in just recent days.
I hope we all come together and ensure that we carry on Raul's vision and his commitment and legacy.
When you think of AOC, again, that's an acronym for her name. She has a brand nationally. Raul Grijalva perhaps was not known to those in other states, but again, a giant of a politician for the Democratic Party, especially from here in Southern Arizona. Let's talk about the celebration of life, kind of that celebratory feel that will be at the El Casino Ballroom, where we find Blake Phillips this morning. Blake, what do we know about that event?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Congressman Grijalva not being super familiar across the country, but right here, where he grew up, where he came for balls and dances at the El Casino Ballroom. He had his 50th wedding anniversary here with his wife. This place is really just as much ingrained in the community as Congressman Grijalva's legacy. Now, what we know is that the celebration today is from 2 to 6, and like you said, Dan, going to be a lot easier to get down here. Still probably going to be pretty crowded, but it is completely general admission. We do know the mayor of Tucson, Regina Romero, is going to be speaking here. Some other speakers are going to be here as well. We expect the family to be here around 1 or so. So this is really where everybody can come together without the hustle and bustle of downtown Tucson, the hustle and bustle of security, and it'll be much more relaxed of an environment. But I talked to Fred Martinez. He actually, him and his employees opened it up for us to get in here to get a look this morning. If you're from South Tucson, you know exactly about the El Casino Ballroom. If you're from the area, you've heard of it. It is very much just as big of a venue here in the community as Congressman Grijalva meant to it as well. So we know that he left behind plans to cater some of his favorite foods from local restaurants for later today. Like I said, the family going to be coming down here as well after the services this morning. But we're going to be on the ground down here and up in downtown Tucson all day long, bringing you the latest and really trying to celebrate the life of Congressman Raul Grijalva. Dan.
Yeah, and it is quite the life. So many facets to remember, and so many people who would like to pay that last respect. And again, celebrate. Blake Phillips reporting there. Let's talk about getting in and around downtown Tucson with Bree Pacelli, who's talking about some of the road closures, some of those issues where perhaps, again, it is a public event, the funeral mass. If you'd like to come down, just you have to be aware of what it's going to take, Bree.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, there's a lot to expect this morning as the funeral gets underway. So let's talk about road closures. We are seeing a couple road closures here. Right now, I am standing on Stone Avenue and McCormick. So Stone Avenue and Church Avenue, they will be closed today, starting from, again, where I'm standing right here, McCormick Street, all the way to Ochoa Avenue, or Ochoa Street, excuse me. So keep that in mind if you are traveling downtown today. And just like Dan said, this is a public event. So as far as parking goes, you can park at the TCC or La Placita Garage. So those are couple options for you, but also keep in mind that downtown is typically a pretty congested area as far as traffic goes. Now, the roads aren't closed right now. The roads will close at 8 a.m. today and will be closed for several hours until 1 o'clock. So again, keep that in mind. We're going to see hundreds of people downtown today. So if you are heading downtown to go to work or wherever you are going this morning, again, keep these road closures in mind. But again, the roads aren't closed right now. We've seen several cars driving through the area this morning. Let's bring in Athena Kehoe. Athena, roads are looking pretty clear right now. We're not seeing a lot of buildup or congestion at this time, but how are things looking across the rest of town?
Thanks, Bree. Yeah, across the rest of town, it is pretty slow morning right now, which, you can't complain about. It's just about 6 a.m., so always good to see that there's not a ton of congestion yet. However, our neighborhood traffic network is showing us that there is a water line repair on Speedway, so if you do take Speedway regularly during your commute between Dodge and Alvernon Way, expect a few lane restrictions, but the city of Tucson said that this water line repair will be done today, so it's just supposed to be today with these lane restrictions there. But again, across Tucson, we are not seeing much congestion. Usually we do see a lot near like downtown Congress and Golf Links, but it is looking pretty clear right now. And your morning drive time, Speedway and Kolb to I-10 is about 14 minutes. Grant and Craycroft to I-10 is about 13. And we will look at your ADOT camera live on I-10 near 22nd Street, and it's looking good right now. And this day is supposed to be looking pretty hot, April, right? So anyone driving or walking to the funeral should definitely keep that in mind.
Yeah, even if they find a close place to park, you're just going to be standing out a lot. It's limited, and so that's why we just stress so much. I mean, look, you can just look at downtown, and I don't even have to tell you. I mean, you got a lot of buildings, right? So you got a lot of concrete, you got a lot of pavement, and that obviously magnifies the heat. So if you're standing in that for periods of time, it can feel as much as 10 to 20 degrees hotter, and we're already going to be in the low 90s. So please stay hydrated, find ways to get into the shade, and just keep yourself cool. We've dropped to 68 right now, but again, that's all going to be kicking off right around 10 a.m. So those peak heat hours of the day between about 10 and 5 is when we're going to be the hottest. So just make sure that you're doing that right there, because we are going to continue to see temperatures well above average, 80s and low 90s. So that right there, those tips for staying safe. I know Dan and Blake are out there this morning, and it's still nice and cool, but I think you'll be seeing some more layers shedding as we get later into the morning. Hopefully they are drinking a lot of water, also staying cool, finding ways to have a little bit of shade. And we got a little bit of cloud cover out there, Dan, so we can hope that will give us a little bit of a break here and there as the sun is coming up, but we don't anticipate it to be thick enough to keep those temperatures down. So definitely drinking a lot of water, staying safe, and I hope that you're doing the same thing, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is it's just a gorgeous morning right now, nice and cool. And again, as you said, it'll heat up quickly. The funeral mass starting at 10 o'clock here behind me at St. Augustine. But you will have so many people down here. The parking situation might require you to walk if you're coming down to the cathedral itself. So we are going to continue to talk a lot more about Raul Grijalva, his life and legacy, someone who represented Southern Arizona for so many years, so many terms in Congress, but again, before that, starting in his 20s, representing people on the different levels of the county, the school board, and again, so friends and family and dignitaries will all be here from all walks of life, all across the political spectrum as well, to pay respects to this longtime sitting member of Congress. And we'll have a lot more of that, Claire. I know as a young reporter, I interviewed Raul Grijalva some, probably 16, 17 years ago. he came across as someone who was serious about the policies that he wanted to get through. Again, someone who took his role and his job quite seriously, but was a straight shooter. You knew what you got when you spoke with Raul Grijalva.
Very true. It was never a guessing game where he stood on any of the issues that he was passionate about. Dan, thank you so much. Let's look at some of your other headlines today as well. Now, with his funeral set to start in a few hours, loved ones have already started honoring the late congressman and his memory with the first of the services at another church across town. St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church held Grijalva's Rosary Prayer Service last night. It's a Catholic tradition to hold it on the night before a funeral mass. Grijalva and his family have been parishioners at the church for more than 50 years. Monsignor Raul Treviso has been the pastor there for more than 30 years and met Grijalva in 1972 while studying at the U of A. He then became his pastor as the congressman was raising his family just a few blocks away. Monsignor Treviso says our community is indebted to Grijalva for his 50-plus years of service.
I really don't have the words to describe the commitment he had to the work he was doing, trying to ensure that this community had what it needed.
Treviso says while the community is sad about the loss of Raul Grijalva, everyone should take comfort in knowing how much he has done for them. Grijalva's funeral mass again starts at 10 o'clock this morning, and you can watch the live stream of the service and our continuing special coverage right here on KGUN 9. When we come back this morning, we have more news and weather in your neighborhood, so stay with us. You're watching Good Morning Tucson.